काम क्रोधी लालची इनमें भक्ति न हो। भक्ति करे कोई सूरमा जाति वर्ण कुल खोए कबीरा जाति वर्ण कुल खोए। काम क्रोधी लालची इनमें भक्ति न हो। भक्ति करे कोई सूरमा जाति वर्ण कुल खोए कबीरा जाति वर्ण कुल खोए। Now the title given to this doha is True Devotion. One can never devotion know who is steeped in kama, krodha, lalchi, steeped in desire. Krodh is anger, lalchi is lust, greed. Inme bhakti na hoye, there is no scope for devotion. Devotees true are those who pray, who transcend caste and creed, jati, varna, kul khoye. True devotees are those who transcend caste and creed. So the the message seems to be very powerful. Today, you may not find the gravity of the context, because perhaps during times of Sant Kabir, there was a lot of this caste system, the division was very much prevalent. So it was very relevant then. So one can never devotion know who is steeped in desire, anger, and lust. Now, devotion and love, as we spoke other day, is the same emotion. And it's a positive emotion of an identification where you exactly feel the same as other person feels. Is a positive emotion. So desire, anger, and lust. So when he talks of anger and lust, these are the two emotions that arise from the desire. He is covering the negative emotions. So the negative emotions that arise from desire is anger. Anger arises when one's expectations and desires are not met. When you desire something and the world does not necessarily satisfy or meet your expectations, you get disappointed, you get it can be a minor irritation, you get minor annoyance, or it can be a very powerful detest. You don't like it, so it can be an anger or hatred. So the manifestation of anger is directly proportional to the intensity of the desire. If the desire is mild and weak, the irritation is also very minor. If you have a very strong desire, it's a strong expression of, a powerful expression of dislike or hatred or anger. So, so whenever you get angry at something, with someone, it's important for you to go within. The anger is not because of the world outside, as we may attribute it to the world outside. Your anger is not because of the world. is because of a certain expectation you carry within. So when your basic expectation, when your basic desire, when it is not met, there is a certain dissatisfaction. So how do you process it? How do you deal with anger? There are many workshops that are run on anger management. I don't know what management they do, but very successfully run anger management workshops. And the typical solutions they give is, if you get angry, you drink a glass of water, preferably cold water. Take a break, walk away from that place. So you find all sorts of quick fixes being given. I know not of any other solutions that you get in this anger management workshops. But the permanent solution is to go to the root cause. What is the cause of anger? Anger is caused because of an expectation or a desire within. So what you should do, you should go and rationalize your own expectations and your own desires. What am I expecting? From what am I expecting? From whom am I expecting? What am I expecting from whom? Once that is rationalized, it is possible to a large extent you will not get disappointed because your expectations are aligned to the environment, the people around. Otherwise, you will very easily lose your temper. You get angry. So anger is when desire is not fulfilled. Now there are a series of other emotions that come about when your desire is not met. What are the other emotion that arises when desire is not met? Pushpama, what other emotion comes when your desire is not met?
We get upset at the moment, and then last resort is breakdown.
You've already gone to the last resort, is it? No, upset also. Upset also. Is it not an expression of an agitation? Is it not? Is it same thing as anger? No.
We try to react if possible. Otherwise, silence.
You know what I'm asking is, when the desire is not met, they are a possible emotion that arise. So what are the other emotions you think that arise when desire is not met? Because when desire is met also, there are so many emotions. Now what the Doha is saying is, when there is desire, anger and lust, there is no scope for devotion, because your mind is caught up in the play of these lower emotions. Your mind cannot get elevated to something higher. So if you want to get elevated to something higher, you must unplug, you must liberate yourself from these negative emotions that constantly grip the mind. Isn't it?
Divert or mind like.
Not divert the mind. You must liberate the mind from these negative emotions. We must liberate it. It's like if you are tied down, you're trying to take you have this, have you seen this paragliding? They go off to a cliff and they have a motorized glider, and then they take off, but they need to take off from a cliff. Now imagine you're tied ropes to you, and then you're tied to the ground, you're pinned to the ground. If you're pinned to the ground and you want to take off to the sky, is it possible to take off? You'll be pinned down, isn't it? So if the mind is caught up in this play of negative emotions, which arises from desire, it is impossible to think of the Lord, think of the higher. There is no question of devotion. So that's the point. So we are just examining briefly the emotions that arise when desire is met and desire is not met. He just gives a line of thought. So when desire is not met, first comes anger. What else comes is the question. Okay. I want you to think along this, the line of thought. Okay, ma. So Tinkima says there is sorrow, frustration, agitation. They're all more or less revolving around anger. What happens? What else happens, Harish? You say unhappiness.
Guruji, yeah, my take is along all those lines, and happiness is also one of the subtle methods of anger where the expectations and desires are not met. So unhappiness comes to mind because it's not going the way I want it to go. It's not happening the way I want it to happen. Hence, the unhappiness is caused because there's a void of my desires or expectations.
Yeah, unhappiness certainly, but unhappiness can also be related to when desires are fulfilled. When somebody is lust and greed, is he happy and contented with his life?
No, actually, no.
He's not happy and contented, isn't it? So see, if you fall back on the the ladder of fall, the ladder of fall, which we often refer to from the 62nd and the 63rd verse of chapter 2, there is a mention there of what happens when anger kicks in. So when anger kicks in and when anger mounts, he says, you develop what is known as a delusion. So anger, it clouds your intellectual clarity. So you get into delusion, and when delusion mounts, it leads to a certain loss of memory. A loss of memory leads to a loss of intellect, and as Pushpama had said, there's total destruction. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. So in terms of consequences, right, I may have said that the various emotions that arise, but the consequences of when anger kicks in, it can lead you to total destruction. So it's important that you arrest the state of anger. The sooner you do. In fact, whenever you are angry or whenever this emotion of anger manifests, you don't make any rational sense. If only you were able to Have you ever done that, Ushama? Recorded the conversation when you are angry and listen to it? If you're not done, please try and do it. But you must have that much time to have the presence of mind to record it also.
Yeah, that also won't be there, Guruji.
If only you have the presence of mind to just
And
capture
you
what all
won't
I
get
spoke.
angry at all, actually.
Correct. You wouldn't get angry at all. I don't think you get angry at all, isn't it, ma?
There'll be some inner voice, Guruji.
Inner voice of cursing and complaining. Huh? Right. So this, you agree, isn't it? When you were to fall back, if at all you look back, what transpired when you had this emotion, when you're overpowered by emotion, you're not your normal sense, the normal self. It doesn't make any sense to you what you have spoken, to whom you have spoken, and why you say things which is unbecoming of you, you know. It can cause extreme damage, extreme chaos. So one emotion can cause damage. Okay. Yes, ma. Yes, Harish.
Guruji, you mentioned when delusion mounts, it leads to loss of memory and loss of intellect. But Guruji, in the world, there are a lot of people experiencing loss of memory medically. Would it be fair or accurate to say that people who have loss of memory at some point in their lives lived with a lot of anger, hence it led to a loss of memory for a lot of people in the world who are experiencing this medical ailment?
That would be stretching a bit too far, I think.
Okay.
I wouldn't connect these two, you know.
Okay.
There could be other reasons why you have memory loss. It's nothing to do with your temper. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Thank
you. Right. So anger is when your desire is not met, and lust is when desire is met or fulfilled. You know. In fact, Situji commented that as you get into depression, does depression arise because desire is not met? Or depression comes in when your desire is met also? Kashish, any idea? Does depression come? Setuji, yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Does depression
Hariom.
necessarily? Hariom, sir.
Yeah, Hariom Guruji. Yeah.
Does depression come only when your desire is not met?
Yeah, as you said, Guruji, when desires are met, when we find that when we compare it with others, we may there is likelihood of depression even then. Yeah. When we later compare that we didn't get a good deal, the way one sharing I did already earlier, when one gets an increment in a job, a very unexpected high increment, he gets elated, but next minute he comes to know his colleague has got little more than him, he gets depressed. So that is a case of where after fulfilling desire also, when you compare with others, there is a chance of you getting depressed, unhappy with
Yeah, you can certainly say so. So depression, not necessarily with unfulfilled. In fact, when you have everything in life, and yet when you find the hollowness of having everything material, you may have, as you said, a secure job, you have money, you have family, you have everything going your way. And yet there are people who come out in public open and they're celebrities. They come out and say they're going through depression. So it's just a sign that nothing external can give you that internal peace or comfort. You can live in a palatial house, you can have everything possible, but yet inwardly you will not find that peace or contentment.
Yeah.
That is also an expression of depression. Okay, Ji?
Yeah.
Right, Ji.
Hari Om.
Okay. Hari Om.
Hari.
Tinkima asking, when desire is met, does it not lead to greed and arrogance? How does it lead to lust? See, here, I think the usage of lust and greed are in a common breath. So when lust is wanting to enjoy more, wanting more, you're not contented, you have lust for power, lust for proprietary, lust for acquiring, in that sense, so it is that avarice or greed which comes up only when the desire is met. When your desire is met, you do develop this,
You want more and more.
you want more and more, so there is dissatisfaction, so
Okay, thank you.
yes, ma'am. So there is this so when there is greed, well, when desire is met, you develop greed, you develop arrogance, as you mentioned, develop arrogance towards people who are at a lower pedestal than you. You become envious towards people who are better placed than you. You also develop fear. So when there is fear, arrogance, envy, greed, anger, delusion, depression, all of this, all of the negative emotions, when your mind harbors these negative emotions, what it does to the mind is the mind loses its natural state. It's important to understand that way. When all these negative emotions, the mind harbors, it could be hatred, it could be jealousy, it could be anger. Any one emotion is good enough. But imagine your mind harboring all these negative emotions. When your mind harbors negative emotions, Kashish, what did I say? I actually forgot what I said. That's why I'm asking you.
Hari Om, Guruji. You said when the mind harbors negative emotions, it loses its natural state.
Correct. Now, what is the natural state of the mind?
At peace.
It has to be at peace. Correct. So, what is the opposite of peace?
Agitation.
Agitation. So, all of these emotions agitate your mind. Just imagine the food you eat is only bringing about ill health at the physical level. The natural physique or natural state of the physical body is health. Imagine every time anything you eat affects your body and you lose your health. What it is to be unhealthy. You feel sick and morose, isn't it? That the feeling of feeling sick and morose is such a gloomy picture it creates, isn't it? I'm only drawing a parallel because we can relate to it easily. But can you imagine the same thing when the mind is in an unhealthy state of mental agitation? Are you able to look at life in a beautiful picture? Everything is negative. You start hating everything. You start cursing everybody. You start punishing yourself. You believe, why am I going through this hell? And all of that is because of your own unmanaged desires and expectations, isn't it? So desire is either met or not met. It causes such a havoc. Now, in the context of the Doha, When your mind is agitated, he says there is no room for devotion. That's the connection we're drawing. So when there can be no devotion to a person who's steeped in anger, desire, and lust, means when your mind is agitated, it can't think of anything higher. Your mind can't go towards the higher. It can't go. So in order to keep your mind worthy of prayer or worship, it must be devoid of these negative emotions. Right? Perfect. Now, the Doha also says devotees are true those who pray, who transcend caste and creed. Now, caste and creed, one who has devotion to the Lord, one who is a true devotee. Remember, always the first quality of a devotee of God. The first quality of a devotee of God, he says, is he who doesn't hate any being. Adveshta sarva bhutana means there is no hatred towards any being. When you say hatred, what causes hatred? Gayatri Ma, what causes hatred towards other beings?
Hatred, it's because our expectations or the other person is not as per our desires or expectations. Then we start hating. No, this is not the way.
I'm slightly, the first half of the Doha is talking one thing, the second half is talking another thing. The first half, as I said, negative emotion agitate the mind, therefore you can't think of the higher. And second half, he says, one who has true devotion rises above caste and creed. So what's the question I asked?
Why does one hate the other person? Why do we have that hatred towards somebody?
Why does a hatred, when does hatred arise? Isn't it? What's the cause of hatred? Is that the question? Or you change the question?
Oh, I didn't say it.
I'm having, Harish, I'm having some memory loss today, you know. Maybe because I'm very angry today. Can we say that, Harish?
No, not at all, Guruji. Not in this case at all.
So what was the question, Harish?
The question is, what causes hatred towards other beings?
You changed the question, Gayatri Ma. So what causes hatred towards other beings? Because a true devotee, he says, he who doesn't hate any being. So what causes hatred, Gayatri Ma?
Feeling of
Think.
otherness.
What causes hatred is when you create a feeling of otherness. And what creates, and what's the expression of otherness? Is you see the world as different elements, different existence. So he gives a line of thought is when you say caste and creed, you are creating otherness based on their caste or creed or color or country or religion or social status. Or educated, uneducated. So there are various reasons we may use to bifurcate or divide people. And when you create a division, that various divisions only creates otherness. So I can differentiate you based on caste. I can differentiate you based on color or country or region or whatever it be. So what is the perception of a true devotee of God? let me ask Kamalji. So contrary to this, what will be the perception of a true devotee of God?
He sees others as himself only, or he sees himself in others. He doesn't see the differences.
He does not see the differences. He sees himself in others or others as himself. And where does it come from?
Basically, when we don't identify ourselves with the body, mind, and intellect.
You don't identify with the body, mind, intellect, but you identify with the common denominator. When you identify with the self, you see a commonness, isn't it?
Yeah.
So devotion to God, a test of true devotion to God is the differences must disappear. Isn't it? Can we say that, G?
Yeah.
So the differences which arise out of this caste and creed or color, or etc., should disappear. So there should not be any hatred because you see the oneness there. You see the common denominator there. There's only one. Remember the poem Abu Ben Adam? Huh? We keep often quoting Abu Ben Adam. He said, love for God is for love for his fellow beings. So the real identification with the living beings, that is true love for God. So it's all the play of emotions that can either make you or mar you. So if you get rid of these negative emotions, there's a possibility that you will identify with a common factor and ultimately see the self transcending caste and creed. Okay, right.